Let's look at some schooling options for children with autism. The options available could be either public or private. In the case of public schools, they are funded by the government, but you may still need to pay some additional costs and fees. In private schools, you would have to pay monthly fees to the school. Basically, you pay for everything, and this is a school that is run as a business. Mainstream schools are schools where the government curriculum applies, where children need to complete tests and assessments from grade 1 to grade 12. If a special needs child is enrolled in a mainstream school, some special coordination would be required. In public schools, there's a district-based support team that will meet in order to assess the needs of the child and in order to decide the way forward. Then there are special schools which will incorporate children with all different types of disabilities and which will have an adjusted curriculum in order to meet their specific needs or intellectual disabilities. Then you have an autism school where you will only find children with autism. In this case too, there will be adjusted curriculums, there will be individualized education plans, and there may be specific communication tools which are taught to these children in the event of them having language impairments. Then you may decide to homeschool your child. If you homeschool your child, it is compulsory for you to register with the Department of Education and to obtain their permission. You would usually purchase a curriculum from a curriculum provider, and you will use this curriculum to tutor your child yourself, or you will hire someone, a tutor, to tutor your child, or you could enroll your child in a homeschool center which uses the curriculum that you have purchased. Then you may also use remedial schools, and remedial schools also apply the government curriculum. The difference between a remedial school and a mainstream school is that you will tend to have smaller classrooms, you will tend to have more experienced teachers in terms of catering for disabilities or learning difficulties. You will have more support provided in the form of occupational therapists or speech therapists on the premises. You may have classes material being presented at a slower pace in order to accommodate the needs of the children. In mainstream schools, children are required to keep up with the standard curriculum. They are expected to work usually without additional support. They have to complete tests and assessments independently. These environments are usually not suitable for children who are non-verbal or who have significant language delays or repetitive behaviors and social impairments. Such children may also lack the analytical skills to be able to learn in mainstream schools and to be able to pass tests and assessments. For children in public schools who are found to have special needs, there would be a district-based support team, or in other countries, some special needs coordinator who will support the child in the mainstream public school. But these schools in South Africa, they still have the option to recommend that your child be transferred to a special school. Here on the right, I've just got an insert where I've indicated what your rights are in South Africa constitutionally, the rights of your child when it comes to schooling. So your child has the right to a basic education, and this is even in the case when you cannot afford public school fees. Children between the ages of 7 and 15 must attend school. You have the right to apply for public school fees exemptions, and you also have the right to be taught in a language that you understand. The important thing to notice here is that your child has the right to a basic education, and this applies in the case of children who have a disability, and it could be any kind of disability. Even though your child has this constitutional right to a basic education, you will find, and this is quite concerning, that many children with autism are not in school and are not receiving any kind of education. And if this is happening, it is in fact a violation of your child's constitutional rights, as the government has a duty to provide basic education. If you are financially constrained and you cannot afford private schooling or therapy, then your local public school or your local public special school is where you need to start and seek to have your child enrolled. If you find that you have been waiting months or even years and your child has not been given a place and is in fact at home, I would recommend that you seek legal assistance from a legal resource center, a legal aid center, or university law clinic. You can also contact an autism organization in your country for guidance. In South Africa, for instance, the organization is called Autism South Africa. On the other hand, parents do need to take into account the fact that a public school, in other words, a public mainstream school, might not be equipped to help your child to learn or to be taught in accordance with his needs. In most instances, education for children with special needs is not always about completing a standard curriculum. It's not always about going through the grades. It's about addressing the aspects of disability that will inhibit your child's achievements and quality of life. Special schools and autism schools are not all the same. Each one is different from the next one, based on the history of the school, the experience of the teachers, the values of that school, the teaching methods, the ethos, and so forth. So you would need to find a school that will support and educate your child, as well as seek to address the core aspects of his disability. For example, a child who is nonverbal should ideally be in a school where he is actively taught a means of communication. Finding the right school means doing your homework, visiting the school, speaking to teachers and principals, speaking to other parents, doing research online, and also contacting your local autism organization if needed. You should also trust your instincts when you walk into a school and look around you to consider whether it will be a correct fit for your child and his needs. You know your child better than anyone else. And a negative response from teachers and principals at a school is also an indication that your child may have a difficult time if he is enrolled here. Remedial schools can be a good option for children of average or above average intelligence. This would include children who would in the past have been characterized as having Asperger's syndrome, or who today are characterized as having high functioning autism but without language impairments. In remedial schools, the classes tend to be smaller, there is more individual attention provided, work tends to be done at a slower pace, and teachers have experience in dealing with learning difficulties. Some remedial schools also have occupational and speech therapists on the premises, and remedial schools do follow the standard government curriculum. So it's important for you to remember that in remedial schools, children have to complete tests and assessments and go through formal grades. But in some remedial schools, there's also the option of vocational training in the senior phase. Children of average or above average intelligence without language disabilities could also attend mainstream schools, whether public or private. However, they do need additional support from teachers due to social impairments and the possibility of bullying and social isolation. If you want to homeschool your child, you will need the consent of the Department of Education or other authority in another country. And a homeschool child still needs to complete the standard curriculum and do tests and assessments and go through grades. So in most cases, the Department of Education will recommend that you purchase a curriculum from a curriculum provider to use at home to teach your child. But the reality is that most of these curriculums are not adjusted in any way to the specific needs of children with disabilities. They are simply what they profess to be, a standard curriculum which is designed in a specific format, and this curriculum may not always be the best option for a child with autism. At homeschool centers, these curriculums are also used, and so your child may end up dealing with similar challenges as he would in a mainstream or a remedial school. And some of these challenges might be that he might not be able to grasp this course material. He may not be able to cope, whether at home or in the center, and he may have difficulty passing assessments and tests that are arranged by the curriculum provider. The compulsory phases of education in South Africa are grades 1 to 3, grades 4 to 6, and grades 7 to 9. However, if your child is in a special school, the curriculum will be adjusted to accommodate intellectual disability, so that many such children who are in special schools will not complete many of the formal grades. And this is not breaking the law in any way. This is simply that your child is in a special school and he's assessed based on what he is able to do. An option for a child who is non-verbal or has very limited communication abilities is to enroll him in a school that offers an ABA program. However, in South Africa, this kind of option is private and it can be expensive. Alternatively, you can contract with an ABA therapist to teach your child at home, or to have such therapists to develop a home program for you or a tutor to use for teaching purposes under the supervision of the ABA therapist. This option may be more cost effective for you, but you will have to ensure that the therapist you retain is experienced and qualified, and also that the tutor you retain is reasonably equipped to teach your child, and also your child's progress should be assessed at regular intervals. I also think that if your child is of school-going age and you are embarking on a home program, then you will also need to register for homeschooling with the Department of Education. Give them details of the program you are going to implement and keep them updated on your child's progress and whether he will in time be able to complete any formal grade. In such case, it is also likely that you would need to give the department details of your child's diagnosis and any relevant medical report that you might have.